How are you people? I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all staying healthy. I know that many of you outdoors people are stuck at home right now because of the quarantine and social distancing and whatnot. And here in Ireland where I live, we have this rule that you're allowed to go for daily exercise no further than 2 kilometers from home. And obviously not everybody is as lucky as I am to have such a beautiful beach just 2 kilometers from home. So I thought that I'm gonna get the camera out and take you guys with me. I have my fishing rod and I'm just gonna take a poke. It's supposed to be brief exercise, so I'm not anticipating to spend here too long. We have a flooding tide. It's coming on for like 2 hours, so it's flooding for 2 hours. And we have around half an hour till the sunset. So that is my favorite time for fishing. Incoming tide and on the sunset, close to the sunset, and a few minutes after the sunset. So let's cast some lures out and let's see if something happens. Always take the cut tag end with you. Don't just discard it into the environment. We all have plenty of pockets in our fishing vests. And the lure today I'm using is a handmade lure by my friend. It's called Taps. You can see here, Taps. I use those lures for like, oh my god man, like 10 years. Sure choice for bass and pollock, possibly. First cast. I tell you a funny story about this spot. I actually never fished for bass here, but many years ago I met some very experienced local angler, and we are fishing a completely different mark, and obviously we were, you know, talking about lures and what lures we using and whatnot, and I showed him one of those Taps lures, and obviously said like, well, yeah, you know, they're great, they're working. And so we've done what anglers do. We swapped the lures. He gave me one of his shore choices for bass, and I gave him one of those Taps lures. And so we met a couple of weeks later, and he said, do you know what? I caught a bass on that lure that you gave me. And I said like, well, it's great. I'm not surprised, but that's great. Where did you caught it? And he told me about this place. So obviously I said, well, you know, I actually live there nearby. That was just a snag. I live there nearby, and I never ever would thought that you can catch a bass there. I was fishing this spot for ray and doggies, but never for bass. So now fast forward 10 years or so, and since I'm grounded like most of you, and that's just about the only spot that is accessible to me within 2 kilometers. Actually, there's one other a little bit more that direction, but anyway, I thought it's going to be a perfect time to go ahead and try that mark for bass, since I know that in this place, using this very lure or this type of the lure, people were catching bass in this place. Yeah, I decided to change the lure. Instead of this Taps hard lure, I'm going to get something else. It looks like we won't see the glorious sunset. Clouds will obscure it. I'm changing to one of my favorite soft plastics. It's a Savage Gear sand eel. Also, like many years I fish on that. I have it on a lighter jig head. I don't have a heavier jig heads with me. I just hope it will gonna be catching less weed. There's a pretty rocky bottom and a lot of weed, and the hard lure with trebles were constantly snagging on the bottom and on the weeds, so it certainly doesn't cast that well as the hard-bodied lure. Yeah, angling, the original form of social distancing. Right, folks, so here's the plan. As you can see, we have this structure over here, and that structure, because the water is flooding, it's actually submerged here. And my plan is now to cast it out lure to the very edge of that structure and see if there's any fish, bass in particular, that might be patrolling that area between the structure and that reef, that structure, and more open water, sandy ground. The tide is flooding quite strong right now, and as you can see, it's getting dark and cold, so I won't be here for much longer. But just a few more casts. Just a reminder, in 2020 in Ireland you're allowed 2 fish when it comes to bass, to sea bass. You're allowed 2 fish in a period of 24 hours, and there is a minimum size limit of 42 centimeters. Obviously, I encourage everyone to return all the bass that they catch, because we all know what's going on with stocks of bass, and you know, all fish for that matter. Especially in case of bass in Ireland, the inshore stocks of bass, they don't have a backup of the offshore stocks of bass like in the UK. Ireland, based on what I read, is bass stocks in Ireland are mainly inshore. So we all know that saying that, oh, angling pressure doesn't matter, that's commercials. But in Ireland you have no commercial fishing for bass going on. It's only anglers. Highly recommended to return all bass back to the water, even if they're within the limit and the legal size and all that crack. Okay, I think I'm gonna change the lure one more time. So what I'm gonna use is Pirate Lure. Pirate Lure. Another lure made by another handmade lure made by another of my buddies, Kuba Standera of Pirate Lures. You know, it has a name, Bass Snack or Bass Treat or something like that. Don't get me started on the names of the lures, but anyway. I think it may be a little bit too big, a little bit too chunky for this place and this time. But hey, we'll see. It's a weedless rig with a hook kind of like a on it. Not only the hook is the hook point is on top, it's kind of hidden or sheltered by the body of the lure, so I shouldn't have any problems with weed or snags. Let's see. And being big and heavy lure, it flies. Did I say dozen more casts? Last dozen. I think it's more honest than last cast. And then you got like a third last cast and sixth last cast, so the last dozen casts. Alright, I think that's genuinely last cast. To be honest, I did not notice too much activity in the water. I haven't heard fish hunting or anything for that matter, so yeah, perhaps later in the year that spot will render some results, depending how long the lockdown will last. I might show up here one more time just to cast the lure, just to get my exercise. And yep, I think that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Not only I got my exercise, but I also felt like I had an opportunity to share with you, especially all of you who are stuck at home, to share with you this beautiful place where I had an opportunity to at least try for a fish. So if you like this sort of entertainment, then click the thumbs up, like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll bring you more. Thanks.